Bitcoin dominance, everyone's favorite chart to pontificate on the strength of the altcoin market versus Bitcoin is going to be the topic of today. I should let you know that this is actually being recorded in advance. I'm going to be having a nice hair transplant surgery today. So I will be nice and puffed up like Orc Crown coming up a little bit later this week. But you've been warned in advance. Also, you're also being warned about the sale going on for all of the programs and services in the Teachable link in the description below for 20% off with the code SUMMER20. Anyways, let's get into the actual analysis of the day. A lot of people like to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart because, well, they think that it gives an accurate gauge of the altcoin season meter, which means that if this chart is bullish, then you should be bearish on altcoins. If this chart is bearish, then you should be bullish on altcoins. And in this case, this chart has been more or less straight fucking up since September of 2022, almost in a vertical fashion with, yes, a few pullbacks here and there, but all of them eaten up pretty much instantly from a monthly basis. Now, I want to say first and foremost that, look, despite this chart being vertical over the past 3 years, there certainly has been an altcoin season. We've seen several sectors go vertical, one of them being AI, the other one being AI agents, and the other one, of course, is memes. I mean, these ones went absolutely fucking bonkers, especially near the end of 2024 and beginning of 2025, despite this chart going vertical. So what is really the value in this chart if it can go vertical, but you still have an alt season? And I would say not much. In fact, it's probably not really wise to be looking at this chart, maybe even at all. So what would be a better chart to be looking at that is maybe more accurately representing what you are probably looking for, which is when do I get into an altcoin because they're most likely to rally? Well, one, when you have those narratives, of course, but that's obvious in hindsight. But the most best way to do it, because that's really good English, is to look at your favorite shitcoin versus Bitcoin. And if that is in an uptrend, then you're probably good to go. If that one has at minimum a daily uptrend, or even just referenced by the 21 versus 55 EMA, you're probably okay, or at least you can expect that you will be outpacing Bitcoin in whatever direction Bitcoin is going. But I would actually suggest that this chart is more or less meaningless. It's not meaningless, but it's not giving you the information that you actually are interested in. Thus, it's kind of a distraction, and I think the people that are just totally obsessed and focused on it, well, they should hopefully have figured that out by now, to be honest. But anyways, there is a better chart. There is a better chart, and it is actually this chart right here. This is the total market cap of all of crypto without Bitcoin, without stablecoins, and actually even without Ethereum as well, versus Bitcoin. So the problem with Bitcoin dominance is that you do still have stablecoins, obviously. This chart over here gets rid of those stablecoins and Bitcoin, obviously, and even Ethereum. I think you probably could have added Ethereum to this chart, and it's probably going to make it even worse, to be honest. But as it stands, you can see a very clear and obvious trend from cycle to cycle. Back in 2017 and 2018, we saw one of the most epically biblical, amazing alt seasons of all time. Why? Because the narrative was ICOs. ICOs were new. It allowed allowed anyone to basically create one. So it was a very low barrier to entry. And then people were just going fucking crazy with them because it was effectively like a new way to invest, right? Angel investing. Anyways, this was this whole run on this chart right here. Really, 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 really epic. From the low to the high on the actual breakout was a nearly 3,000% move. Keep that number in the back of your mind. In fact, actually, you don't even need to remember it. I will put it, I'll put it exactly like this. Okay, so nearly a 3,000% move from low to high. Impressive as hell. But as we can see in the following alt season in 2021, the narrative shifted. It shifted to, what was it? It was DeFi in 2020. Then you had NFTs and... oh, I think those were the kind of big ones. And maybe like some of the layer ones or layer twos, whatever the fuck they're called. Don't really think of that it matters, honestly. But you had a pretty epic run right here. But you can already tell in orders of magnitude, it is significantly less than what we saw in 2017. If we put a number on it, it would be a less than 500% rally, 433 and spot 92%. So again, big fucking move, yes, but in terms of, in relation to this first one over here, significantly less. In fact, it is a reduction of 37%. Okay, so we have our first sort of inclination that alt season is getting weaker and weaker as time goes on. Why is that? Because there's more regulation. Obviously, in this first one here from 2017, there was basically no regulation. It was the wild, wild west. And so you had a lot of things that just went to the moon and beyond. This next one over here, a little bit more, guardrails on. And yes, you did get an epic rally, but it certainly was not of the same magnitude of the prior. And in fact, I will just measure out the percentage loss right there, just so that we can reference that in a bit. And then most recently, we had, in my opinion, the alt season of this cycle, which was the rally from mostly the end of 2024. Again, memes, AI agents, and just AI tokens in general were kind of the narrative. And that was really getting underway in deep Q4 of 2024. And from low to high, we saw about a 60% close to 63% move. Not as impressive, again, decreasing by a rather rapid rate here. In fact, another almost 32.5% decrease. So the decreases from high to high are actually rather consistent here, in the 30s, mid 30s or so. So this does kind of mark off. And the percentages to the upside, I mean, these are obviously of an order of magnitude significantly less from time to time. But my point is that one, is it reasonable to expect that we actually did see alt season? I think so, yes. And two, do we expect if there is a further alt season? So I'm making the assumption now that everyone else is right and that alts will see their day in the sun and it's going to be all well and good. Well, what could we expect? Could we expect something bigger than 2021? Don't fucking think so, man. Could we expect something bigger than 2017? Hell no. Or at least it wouldn't be reasonable in my opinion. Could we be expecting anything even bigger than what we saw here in December 2024? Possible, yes. But given these sort of ratios, this does work out as a consistent sort of reduction in terms of diminishing returns from cycle to cycle. Again, I bet that this is due to regulation. I bet that this is due to just a generally smarter, type of person coming into this market and realizing, oh shit, there, really is just about the narrative. And at this point, all higher term timeframes for this are in a downtrend. The monthly is in a downtrend. The weekly is in a downtrend. The daily is in a downtrend. I mean, shit, you might even be looking at the weekly and bi-weekly as already breaking and continuing this trend right here. Even the quarterly, I mean, looks like it's ready to about fall off the cliff. If we go into our momentum oscillators, we can see, and I don't know how much this actually matters for this one, but we're actually seeing the lowest RSI levels for the quarterly RSI. Just because it's low does not mean it's bullish, by the way. That's a very, very bad signal. Yes, at some point, you probably create some divergence in bottom, but that's, maybe a cycle away. If we go to the monthly, hidden bullish divergence on that last high, the last couple cycles did top off at with bearish divergence as well. Sorry, did I say hidden bullish divergence? I meant hidden bearish divergence there. Anyways, all major moving averages are in a bearish posture up to a monthly time frame. Not looking fucking good there. If we bring over our momentum oscillators from this angle, in reference to stochastic momentum, we can see the monthly time frame, obviously nosediving here, remains to the downside for quite some time longer, it seems like. Quarterly, same thing. Yes, it's getting very, very low, but again, that's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. The weekly also getting very, very low. I think that it can go lower, just like what we saw in the past as well, but those are probably bounce areas when it gets down to those levels, but not reversal areas. Again, even getting back above this high right here from early December is probably going to be quite difficult. And if you think about it, from cycle to cycle, it actually has been the same game every time. Starting with 2017, because that's when really altcoins got super, super popular. Before that, in 2015, yes, there were altcoins, but it wasn't the same sort of exuberant irrationality that we see nowadays with them, or in the past like 10 years, I'd say. So what is the picture that I'm painting here? Well, every cycle has had its narrative for shitcoins to pump. And one of the things that is typically consistent is that narrative does not include prior cycle narratives or prior cycle shitcoins that were popular. So for example, in 2017, again, it was the ICOs, right? It was all of those things that were related to Ethereum, and those went to the moon and beyond. But if you actually look at it, all of the other stuff did not. Most things did not. If it was from 2015, you didn't even fucking hear about it in 2017, except for a very select few. That would have been Litecoin, XMR. I think Dash was kind of popular then as well. some of them less than probably 10. Everything else was more or less a new shitcoin, again, related to Ethereum. Then in 2021, did we see the 2017 coins rally from that prior cycle? No, we didn't. The overwhelming majority of them did not. Even Ethereum, which people look at as, a very legitimate project, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't fucking know. Even Ethereum, it didn't even outpace Bitcoin in terms of high to high, right? When we look at Ethereum high from 2018 to 2021, it's a 230% gain. Bitcoin went from its high of 20,000 all the way up to almost 70,000. So very, very similar to that, despite Ethereum being such a lower market cap, not even keeping pace with Bitcoin almost. So again, and you can see that in the ratio, by the way, as well. So the point that I'm making here is that alt season, in the way that people continue to propagate it on social media, has actually never even worked the way that they think it works. They think that alt season is just a time when everything in their mother rallies to the moon and beyond. Yes, it is a time when most things get some upside movements, but prior cycle shitcoins, things that are not a part of the current narrative, only get bounces that formulate into lower highs, not making higher highs above the past cycle high when it was in the hot, narrative category, and then inevitably come back down, towards the lows, in many cases making new lows. And we've seen the same thing this cycle as well. So in my opinion, this is, this chart right here is evidence as to why the people who are looking for alt season either completely missed it or you shouldn't be expecting anything like super, super crazy for this cycle, from what we've already seen, and especially not above the 2021 highs over here. And, maybe there's a new narrative that finishes off this cycle as well. Definitely possible. I imagine it'd be something different as well. Maybe not memes again, it's probably going to be maybe AI related, although that narrative did get played, to be fair. But as far as this chart goes, this one is on the verge of breaking down. And actually, most people would probably look at this one as already confirming a breakdown, as the May closure did close below this last whole lower block lows that was put in from October of 2023. So making new lows from there. This looks like a continuation of trend. This looks like this thing, again, will have its bounces, but certainly do not be carried away with these bounces, especially as long as you're below the fucking May highs, for the love of God. And honestly, for the alt season that many people are probably looking for, because apparently, December 2024 was not enough, it would be this high right here, very, 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 very far away. So again, I'm not saying that shitcoins can't rally. Yes, there's always going to be some that rally to the moon and beyond at any given moment in time, despite what the rest of the market is doing. That's just the nature of having millions and millions of different shitcoins in this market at this point. But the key here is, one, to scrap that fucking Bitcoin dominance chart. It's just not telling you what you want it to tell you. And two, adopt a view of your altcoin versus Bitcoin as the standard, because that's always gonna be the best way to analyze any one particular shitcoin. And then three, if you are gonna look at something that is supposed to represent the Bitcoin dominance, or supposed to represent altcoins, because that's why you're really looking at it. Look at this chart right here. Total market cap, excluding Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins versus Bitcoin. And you can see very, very clearly long-term, this is, a similar chart to what most shitcoins experience, except this one hasn't actually made lower lows just yet. So we shall see. We shall see. Anyways, that's where I'm going to leave off on today's video. As always, like to wish you the best of the best. Tomorrow I'll come back and I shall look very bizarre, but hopefully it's for the best. And with that said, I'd like to wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Tuesday.